Yes guys, the video you've been waiting for is here. I'm talking about Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 versus Exynos 2200. Every year, Samsung gives us two SoCs for their flagship devices. That means that we have two different chipsets for what could be the gaming performance that sets up all gaming performances, right? Now, we know the Exynos 2200 comes with AMD's GPU. Yes, AMD GPU in Exynos with RDNA 2, so which means you should be getting some really great performance. But Snapdragon says, wait, just hold on a second. I've been here around in the gaming business and mobile for a while. Now, when you're looking at both devices, the black version here, or the black colored version, is my Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, and the green colored version, which actually looks lovely, I love the color, is the Exynos version. So pretty much it's simply Ichigo versus Gohan. Anyway, I'll leave the wallpapers down for you guys down below, but let's go ahead and jump in here. Now, does this mean that you have two very different devices? No. Now, you have devices that have the same displays, the same camera modules, the same batteries, the same everything other than the SoC, which is the main processors in here. Now, that is where you're going to be seeing some differences between game performance and maybe even imagery as well. Now, you're wondering, where do you get the Exynos version? If you're in the UK, you will get it, and if you're other parts in the world, well, the Snapdragon version is in the US and most regions around the world. Now, let's start off with, of course, benchmarks, because you guys love benchmarks, right? Now, we're going to start off with Geekbench. Geekbench, I think, is a nice medium to start off, and this is where we see the benchmark comparisons. So with CPU benchmarks, Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 clearly wins, both in single core and multi-core performance, and it is clear that, it's just better at that CPU perspective. Now, when it comes to compute performance, you can see here with OpenCL that Exynos 2200 wins. It wins with a higher number, about 3,000 more, and that is an OpenCL. When we do Vulkan, it's about 4,000 more compared to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 version. So again, does this mean one is better than the other, especially with the GPU performance with that compute? Well, not necessarily. So let's take a look at another test. This is the 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme Stress Test. Now, when you look at it, the stability differences are quite varied. 92.5% on Exynos, 79.1 on Snapdragon. But Snapdragon has better loop scores and much higher at 2559 compared to 1826. And as you can see with loop stress test, yes, it is more steady, if kind of on the Exynos, but much higher and still steadier on the Snapdragon. But again, now does this mean that Snapdragon is better? Well, let's take it to the games. Now, let's start off with emulators. Now, I couldn't test all, but I was able to jump into Redream, and Redream plays well on both the Snapdragon version and the Exynos version. You get 60 frames per second, and I know you guys are saying, what about PlayStation 1's? Give me more time. I'll probably do that for you. But it plays well on both, as well as also game streaming services like Xbox Game Pass. That also runs at 60 frames per second, so those are covered. Now, when we go to our main Android games, let's start off with, of course, with our very favorite game, which is our baseline, Call of Duty Mobile. Now, we saw Call of Duty Mobile on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 run really well, 60 frames per second at the highest setting. This is where things got a little interesting. On the Exynos 2200 version, I didn't have any high settings. I had really low settings, and that actually was shocking. So I played at the low settings and I got 60 frames per second, but you're not playing at the highest settings of the game. That means to me that maybe some of the games I'll be playing here might not be fully optimized, but those are the numbers I got. So I said, let's transition over to PUBG Mobile. Now, PUBG Mobile, you know very well that that's a game that we can play at two main settings, Smooth Extreme, as well as Ultra HD Ultra. I usually do that in every video, and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 version does flying colors. Smooth Extreme, 60 frames per second, and Ultra HD Ultra at 40 frames per second. Now, with the Exynos 2200, we don't have those settings. There is no Ultra HD Ultra available yet, and of course, no Smooth Extreme. So I played at Smooth High, and I got roughly around 30 frames per second. Not the best, not what I was looking for, But again, that is not optimized. So that is leaving me with a little bad feeling here that I might not be getting the numbers I should be getting, especially if Samsung is saying this is their top tier device and it should be the same across the board. So let's go ahead and check out, of course, games with high refresh rate. And we decided to display Real Racing 3 to see the kind of performance we got there. And to the credit, Real Racing 3 gives you very close performance at about 119 for the Exynos 2200 version and 117 for the Snapdragon version. So we see similar performance there, matching the higher frame rate. So that's a good sign. That is a good sign. Now, what about games that are more graphically intensive, right? So I went over and checked out Black Mobile Desert. Now, Black Mobile Desert is a game that you guys said I should check out. Played it on the Snapdragon version, and I got about 43 frames per second, steady, solid. The game ran smooth. Again, that's just the frame rate I'm getting for it. Moved over the Exynos version, and yes, it's the same frame rate, 43 frames per second. So it seems that optimization might be the key thing here for Exynos, but performance-wise, it's matching on certain games, which include Black Mobile Desert. Then we head over to the game that, of course, everyone knows is not as optimized as would like, Genshin Impact. Now, Genshin, if you guys remember well, in my S22 Ultra gaming video, that ran on the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 at about 42 frames per second. And we also tested this out against the iPhone, and it ran better than the iPhone, which did about 38 frames per second. So what about the Exynos 2200? Well, Exynos 2200 did an average of 37 frames per second. It dipped lower at some points to the 20 frames per second. Now, I'm not saying that this is the performance for it, but again, optimization is key. But the key thing here, it is lower than the Snapdragon version, which is at 42, and this is at 37 frames per second. So put that in mind whichever way you want. So now you're thinking, there is a lot of discrepancies between the performance, especially now that the devices are available between the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 version and the Exynos 2200. What about temperatures? Is one hotter than the other? We've heard over the years that the Snapdragon version usually runs really hot. And when I looked at the temps, both temps are similar. When I played games at the same amount of time, the Snapdragon version gave me about 106 to 105 degrees Fahrenheit, while the Exynos gave me the same temperatures as well. So I felt like I was getting the same temperatures, and it felt like, at least in terms of temps, you're gonna be ending around the same for both devices, which I think is standard and is pretty cool. Now, are there any more surprises? Is there anything else? Well, I decided to take a few images off the devices, and I wanted to just show you guys because I'm noticing some changes and differences here between the images from the 8 Gen 1 and the Exynos, which should be similar, but I am seeing differences. What I want to ask you guys here is, should I go ahead and do a camera comparison for you? So leave those thoughts down below, because I'm very interested to see what this devices actually bring up in terms of images and if they're similar. So overall, here's the big question. Is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 Galaxy S22 Ultra better than the Exynos version? Well, the short answer is yes. The long answer is hold on a second. The reason I'm saying that is because, as we can clearly see, certain games are just not optimized. If those three main games are not optimized, then a lot of games will not be optimized. Call of Duty Mobile didn't have the right settings, as well as also PUBG Mobile didn't have the right settings. And we can see the poor optimization that we usually see from Genshin Impact. This is why I'll say, if you are in a region that has the Exynos processor and you are a gamer, this probably is not the device for you to get right now until updates roll out for those games. Now, I don't know when that will happen. I don't know if that will happen, but we can clearly see that optimization is probably the biggest factor that gives Snapdragon the edge with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. So guys, that is what I think about gaming on these devices. If there are updates, I would definitely do an updated video for you, hopefully maybe in a month or two or even 3. So we'll see where it actually stands and if it's actually better. But if you want to check out more videos about gaming on these devices, like gaming with the S22 Ultra versus the iPhone 13 Pro Max, go ahead and click that link and check it out, as well as also gaming on the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. That's a really big device. So click on the link, guys, check it out, and Always enjoy your entertainment.